What's going on, guys? Murph's YT13 here, and we are back for yet another Monday Night Raw review. And let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about Night of Champions first. Monday Night Raw, of course, was coming off the heels of Night of Champions. Yeah, I mean, what did you guys think? I didn't really have much of a strong opinion either way on it. There was a few things that were confusing. I think we saw potentially Sting's last match. I think his back's fairly injured and his neck or something to that description. But again, you know, Sting's lost his only 2 matches in the WWE now, which is just strange. It really is strange. That, you know, I did not want him to lose to Seth Rollins at all. I didn't want to see Sting as the champion. But you know, he's lost 1, 2, 3 twice in the WWE now. So I don't know if this is Vince McMahon just saying, well, I killed WCW, pal, so I'm gonna kill Sting. I'm really sorry about that, but that's one thing I've always wanted to do, is a Vince McMahon impression. Yeah. But anyway, moving right along from that horrendous rendition of Vince McMahon, we did see a number of brand new champions. We saw Charlotte become the new champion. The women's championship. I'm not going to call it the Divas Championship. That stupid butterfly belt, it needs to go. We saw Kevin Owens finally get that Intercontinental Championship. I've been pushing for that for weeks and weeks and weeks. And finally we've got Kevin Owens as the Intercontinental Champion. We got John Cena defeating Seth Rollins clean as a whistle in the middle of the ring. So John Cena's now pinned the champion so many times, and that just further frustrates me, to be honest, with Seth Rollins. His title reign has been a joke, and he's a loser. He's a losing champion, and he's too much of a weasel. He's too much of a weasel. But anyway, let's move on to Raw. Let's get into the meat, the good stuff of Monday Night Raw. And we kicked off Monday Night Raw with an authority pro...
What? You got flappy gums about what Triple H is going to do to me?
No. We didn't kick off Raw with an authority promo. We kicked it off with the Wyatts. And this was awesome. This was a great, fresh way to start the show. We had Bray Wyatt spouting his mouth off, gloating about his victory, as he should. He was then interrupted by Roman Reigns, who came down, got right in the face of Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family, and he said, you know, let's forget about everything else. It only comes down to me and you. This issue is not about anyone else but me and you, so I want you one-on-one, and we don't even have to have a match. Let's just fight. And so that's what they did, but they were eventually interrupted by Luke Harper and Braun Strowman, of course, because that's what you do. You don't just stand idly by while your mate gets his ass whooped. You've got to get in there and help him out. And so they eventually got involved. Dean Ambrose eventually came back. And I'm not really sure where they're going to go with this, because there wasn't really that much of a mention of Chris Jericho unless I missed it. So it may be just a one-off shot. I thought we may have been heading down the road of Jericho versus Ambrose, potentially Jericho being the heel in the match, but we'll have to wait and see how this goes. What do you guys think? Do you think Jericho will be back? Do you think he'll have anything else to do? I know he's not really that fond of being on TV, on the TV schedule anymore, but I love Y2J. But okay, let's go. All right, I need to talk about this too. Is the introduction of Y2J back? He's made his 1,875th return to the WWE at Night of Champions. I know there was something leaked, and I think it may have been the WWE trolling us. Everybody thought it was going to be Baron Corbin that would come in Jericho's place. I don't know if the WWE just panicked because the reaction to that was quite poor. And they were probably never ever going to consider Samoa Joe, which was my suggestion last week, that maybe they should go with Samoa Joe. I don't know, at Night of Champions it felt a little flat. I think everybody was really wanting and expecting a debut. or you know, maybe a different return of someone who's been away a little bit longer. The last time we saw Jericho was on the Japan special, the Beast in the East. He had a cracking match against Neville. But yeah, ultimately it fell a little bit flat for me. That after the involvement of Dean Ambrose, we had Randy Orton come in, and he made, I guess, somewhat of a return again. So Randy Orton has now joined forces with Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. There was a really cool six-man pull-apart brawl, which eventually Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose and Randy Orton stood tall. And it was cool. It was a great way to start the show. It really was. It was a hot start. Everybody was right into it because I think everybody was just expecting to hear the "Behold the King of Kings." I've absolutely lost it today. Anyway, we'll move on. I think everybody was expecting the Authority to come out, but they didn't. And I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad we started off with some action. And so we moved on, and we've got Neville and the Lucha Dragons versus Stardust in the Ascension Cosmic Wasteland. And I thought this was a great match. It was a really good way. It got Raw off to a really good start wrestling-wise. We had a hot pull-apart brawl, and then we got this great six-man tag match. All of these guys are great. The Ascension, when they really get rolling, if they had been taken seriously and not put the stupid face paint on, the big shoulder pads and all that garbage, They are actually a really effective tag team in the ring. I know they're no good on the mic. They're no good pretty much anywhere else. But the ring, that's where their strength is. And they've got some really good tag team moves. So I would have liked to have seen the Ascension taken a little bit more seriously. Neville and the Lucha Dragons defeated Cosmic Wasteland. It was a really good match. The in-ring was great. And I'm really enjoying the six-mans in WWE at the moment. They've always been able to provide good action, like really solid, fast-paced action. So we moved on. We've got Ryback versus Bo Dallas, and this was a bit of a squash match, but Bo Dallas got a lot of offense in, to be honest. So you can't really call it a squash. But Kevin Owens on commentary, always a pleasure to have Kevin Owens on commentary. His arrogant demeanor and the way he presents himself when he's a champion is fantastic. However, I did have a little bit of a gripe with how this ended. Ryback, of course, he beat Bo Dallas. He beat him clean. But after the match, Kevin Owens ran in and attacked Ryback. I don't really understand why. Kevin Owens has what he wants. He won the title. He's the champion. And the way he's been portrayed over the last few weeks is of a guy who's very content. Once he wins, he moves on. And he doesn't care about you anymore. But he's attacked Ryback. So I hope they explain that more. I hope they explain why he would attack Ryback a bit more. Because it just didn't make a hell of a lot of sense. Why does Kevin Owens need to... Why does he need to put his title in jeopardy? Why does he need to give someone a reason to fight for his title after attacking Ryback? Anyway, that's just a very small little gripe that I had. But after that, after the Kevin Owens and Ryback stuff, we had the Divas Championship celebration. Now, this was my segment of the night. I thought this was fantastic. Nature Boy Ric Flair comes out. He introduces Charlotte. There's tears. There's genuine emotion. There's no way that any of that it was staged. It was genuine emotion. And these two shared a beautiful moment in the ring at Night of Champions and on Monday Night Raw. But after weeks of frustration, finally we got that Paige heel turn. And I did mention it last week that I thought Paige was potentially going to cost Charlotte the title. But now it just appears that she's fed up. She's fed up with everybody fussing over Charlotte. She drops her version of a CM Punk pipe bomb. And everything she said was spot on. Everything she said is everything we have been saying for months. The Divas Revolution is a joke. And the people who are on top of the Divas Revolution are there for a reason. Now, I'm not saying that just because Nikki Bella is with John Cena, that's why she's been the champion. But it's got to have something to do with it. And you know, Brie, I mean, everybody says, oh, the reason Brie's in the position she's in is because of Daniel Bryan. Well, Brie's in a terrible position. Brie loses every single week. And the whole line about that Paige said about Becky Lynch was she's the least relevant. I think you've got to look at Alicia Fox as being the least relevant, and I think you've got to look at Brie Bella as being the least relevant. Out of everybody, I think those two girls have been the biggest affected by the focus that's been put on Charlotte. But yeah, it was a good segment. I thought Paige was fantastic. She's very easy to dislike, and that's good. She's got a very arrogant demeanor about her naturally, so I loved it. I thought Paige was absolutely fantastic. Nikki Bella came out. She called Paige trashy, which is her, that's her go-to. I think she's said it about just about everybody who's dissed her. She's not that great on the mic, but she, look, Nikki Bella, you've got to give her credit where it's due, man. She's been good over a whole number of years. So this whole Divas thing, now that the split's happening, I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be great. I think everybody should get excited. So we move on. Charlotte versus Brie Bella. Now, this was a typical Divas match, and Charlotte gets the win with the figure 8. There's really nothing more to report. There was a good little bit of storytelling trying to work on the knee, but eventually Charlotte puts all the pressure on her knee to bridge up, and she comes out of it and wins the match. So nothing much to report there. We move on to Mark Henry versus Sheamus. Now, this was an awkward match. It was really awkward. Sheamus, they didn't really choose to capitalize much on his momentum after his near cash-in at Night of Champions. They just chose to put him in a squash match against Mark Henry, which seems to be his job now, and that's disappointing. So we saw a really awkward, in inverted commas, glancing brogue kick from Sheamus. He missed it by a mile. They reloaded, and then he hit the brogue kick. Again, there's nothing too much to speak about. It was just a bit of a squash match. We'll move on to Dolph Ziggler and the Dudley Boyz versus the New Day. And I've got to say, bravo. These, man, seriously, Xavier Woods playing Rusev's theme on the trumpet. I actually showed my girlfriend the footage, and she was genuinely laughing because I played her Rusev's theme and then played him playing it on the trumpet, and she loved it. She said they're probably, she hates wrestling, and she said they're probably the most entertaining guys I've ever seen you watching on the wrestling. So these guys are just absolutely killing it. The Dudleys are awesome. The promos that New Day are cutting, the matches that they're having, they're actually an upper mid-card tag team, and they've got the titles. They're bringing something to the titles that hasn't been there for such a long time, and that's prestige and interest. And a fantastic match ensued. Rusev and Kofi Kingston and Big E, they defeated the Dudley Boyz and Dolph. And they were an afterthought. Rusev and Dolph were a real afterthought in this, and that's a little bit worrying. I think they're just sort of treading water until they can get Lana back into the scene, so they'll just keep treading water. Maybe some more six-man tags and things like that. But overall, man, this was a great little segment. I really, really enjoyed it. After that, we got my favourite women's wrestler of all time, Nattie versus Naomi, and this was a decent match. It was a really decent match, and this was coming off the heels, of course, of the backstage interaction with Paige, which Paige obviously asked Nattie, where have you been? This is the you're a third generation superstar, and this is the Divas Revolution, and you have been nowhere to be seen. So I think this is smart. I'd like to see Nattie versus Paige. I think that's good. Paige is a I guess is she a second generation, maybe even third generation wrestler herself. Not as high profile as the Harts, of course, but pretty big profile. It's Paige's family in I think they're the Knight family from England, and so you could play off that. You could say you always claim that you're third generation. Well, I'm third generation as well, and maybe even bring the families into it. I'm not sure that Jim the Anvil's really at the best place at the moment, but I'd really like to see the Knight family. You know, Paige's mum is a phenomenal performer, so you know, maybe even just consider something like that. Just make it a little bit more personal, and I reckon that could really develop into a really red hot feud, and those two girls can go. So it was good to see that Nattie was back on TV, but ultimately she got defeated because she got outweighed by the numbers. So that might just open up the chance for Nattie to join up with Charlotte and Becky Lynch. But you know, it was good. I'm just glad that Nattie's back on TV, because she should be the head of this Divas division without a doubt. After that, we had Cesaro versus the Big Show. So I enjoyed it. I thought this was great. It was, you know, it was a pretty short match, but again, you know, the use of Cesaro, it's continuing to be, it's really disheartening. This guy was on top of the world. He looked like the next breakout guy yet again. You know, they're just pegging him down. He had to be. Why did Cesaro have to be the guy that Big Show beat? After that, the Big Show really cut a brilliant promo, building up to the match at Madison Square Garden with Brock Lesnar, the Go to Hell tour or whatever it is. And you know, I'm kind of excited for that match to see how Brock Lesnar reacts to that. So, you know, overall, not a bad segment. Big Show, they're trying to build him up again for the, you know, millionth time, but all he is a big guy who comes out on TV and loses and cries. But after that, we had the main event, the United States Championship match. John Cena took on Seth Rollins, and I thought the match was fantastic. Again, you know, these guys just tear it down every time they get in there, and it ultimately ended with Cena going over clean as a whistle again over the champion. So we get it, WWE. We get it. John Cena's better than Seth Rollins, and the US title means more than the WWE title. We get it. We get it. We know John Cena is strong. We know John Cena wins big matches. We know this. You don't have to pin the fucking champion 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. Come out and have Kane schmoz it. And Cena retain that way. And Seth Rollins then just turn his attention to Kane. You don't have to pin him 1, 2, 3. It doesn't make any sense. This guy is just like, you know, he's playing the role of Brie Bella. He's the guy who loses all the time. And it's just... But, you know, the WWE will retrospectively book this. They'll say, well, Seth Rollins was the champion for 300 days, so he's one of the greatest of all time. That's bullshit. He's not. He loses all the time. It just makes me so frustrated. And, you know, Kane coming up from underneath the ring and stuff, it's been done to death, and now Kane wants the title. It's, you know, it gets worse for Seth Rollins. He's got to... This is almost parallels Daniel Bryan after WrestleMania 30 when he had to take on Kane, and it was that, you know, that B grade, C grade fucking acting, running away from the beast all the time. It's just, it's tired, you know. Rollins getting dragged underneath and the smoke coming up. It's, you know, this should be in the mid card. But anyway, you know, the match was great, and the finish was fine. You know, Cena winning. I've really got no problem with Cena winning. I just don't know. Do you really have to pin the champion twice? You know, in 2 nights, Seth Rollins beaten clean. But, yeah, just a frustrating end, you know. Seth Rollins, he doesn't need Kane at the moment. You know, he should just take Kane out, or, I don't know. What do you guys think? Where should they go with this Kane angle? How long should it go on? And who would you put up against Seth Rollins? Who's Seth Rollins' next challenger? Maybe that'll be the question of the week. Who should Seth Rollins' next challenger be? But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for the Raw review. I've got myself worked up now, so I'm going to have to go and take a little bit of a break and calm myself down. It just really infuriates me, some of these things. It's only because I love it so much. It's only because I love it so much. So if you've enjoyed this video, guys, make sure you drop a like. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're new. And come and join me next week for another Raw review. So for MerfsYT13, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.